I had just left my mother's house after visiting her on her birthday. She lives a state over from me, and while I don't visit as often as I should, I try to make it out there when I do get a chance. I had left my mother's a little after 4 p.m., and for the first hour or so, I was met with an outrageous amount of congestion. I think I ended up sitting on the highway without moving for a total of 20 minutes straight. My GPS came to life informing me of a severe accident further down the road. Although I wasn't surprised, I was grateful to have something to blame on this bad traffic. As my car crept further down the road, my GPS with her overly chipper voice suggested that I take a detour. At that point, anything was better than sitting in this metaphorical hell. Eventually, I made it. My GPS began to plot a new route home as I drove along the side road. Around 10 minutes later, I found myself driving alongside farmland for as far as the eye could see. While I was still a little frustrated at sitting in traffic, being able to drive consistently with a relaxing view did help calm me down a bit. A few minutes later, my gas light appeared, and I sighed as this just seemed to add on to my many driving frustrations. I was pulling up to an intersection when I saw a sign for a town to my right. Running out of options, I made my way down the road. When I first pulled into town, I was surprised at how barren it was. There was a small gas station on the edge of town, a post office nearby, and a few residential houses further down the road. Putting the thought to the back of my mind once again, I pulled into the gas station as the sun was beginning to set. After getting out of my car, I saw that the pump had a "Please pay inside" sign taped to it. When I stepped through the doors, I locked eyes with the man behind the counter. I gave him a nod as I walked over to the coolers to grab a water. I walked up to the counter and set my water down and asked him to put 20 on the pump outside. He just stared at me for a moment with a grin that seemed forced. He simply nodded, pressed a few buttons on the register, then returned to his previously motionless demeanor. I asked him how much it was for the water, but the man didn't acknowledge me at all. Feeling too tired to deal with all this, I just set a 20 and a few ones on the counter and headed out to my car. As I was filling up my car, I noticed something even stranger than the gas station clerk. There was a woman standing in the middle of the street. I watched her until my tank was topped off, wondering what the hell she was doing. As I approached her, I asked her if she was doing all right, to which she replied, "Oh yes, we are happy here." At this point, I was ready to leave, and not just because my gas tank was full. As I drove through the town, more and more things stuck out at me. The post office nearby had 4 people standing outside of its doors, though I have a friend who works at the post office and they don't stay open very late at all. So either this was a unique post office or those people were waiting to get inside a closed building. I began to pass by the houses next. One house had a man raking his front lawn. Normal enough, although there wasn't a single leaf anywhere to be found. Across the street from him was a house that had a small seesaw in the front yard, with 2 children playing on it. Except, they were both sitting on it evenly, staring at each other, not going up and down. I started to pick up my pace as I wanted more and more to get out of this strange town. But I soon regretted that decision as flashing lights filled my rearview mirror. I groaned as I pulled over to the side of the street. He slowly walked up to my window and stood there. I had been pulled over before, and one thing I learned is you wait for instructions from the officer. I rolled down the window and asked if there was a problem. "You have the right to remain silent." I gave him a confused look and asked if I was under arrest, to which he spoke again. "It's illegal to drive a car, sir." He then leaned down and almost stuck his head inside my car window before saying, "Have a nice day." Taking a moment to compose myself, I looked around and noticed that all the people were now staring at me. The man raking his leafless yard, the 2 children. Everyone was staring at my car now. The one that was standing in the middle of the street near the gas station. Well, she was still in the street, but right in front of me now. In a deep, gravelly voice that obviously didn't belong to her, she said,
"Join us."
I have never stomped my foot on the gas pedal that hard before in my life. My tires squealed down the road, and I didn't let off until I started to see the cornfields once again. Once I was back on the highway, a tidal wave of relief washed over me. I didn't get off the highway until I was finally home. When I made it home, I couldn't stop thinking about all those weird people. How they all looked like people, but they didn't act like people. I know this must sound confusing to all of you, but it's just as confusing to me. I'm not entirely sure who they are, or even what they are. But I think next year, I'll just send my mom a card for her birthday instead.